It's funny because when I bring up my Civil War reenacting, sometimes people are a little bit shocked about it. But for me, it's just part of my story. I love the idea of a living history that lets us see what history looked like. But when you're looking at it only from that one dominant perspective, it really shapes it incorrectly and impacts how you view it. So I came out of that mindset like defending the Confederate flag. I even had one hanging on my wall. I thought it was a part of heritage, and I only saw it from that perspective. I had missed so much, thinking I knew everything about it and was so certain in that narrative that I had grown up with. But then being exposed to something else really allowed me to see other narratives. And that kind of opened my eyes to the idea of, hey, maybe my story's not the only one. Maybe there's something else I need to be hearing and other people I need to hear from. And those people might not be the ones that are the most dominant voices. When Ferguson happened, I didn't realize that Ferguson was in the United States. I assumed that there was all these riots and fires going on in some other country. That's how ignorant really I was of what was happening. And then right after that, Eric Gardner was murdered in broad daylight on camera. I had this just world concept. You know, everything works out for good people to have good outcomes and bad people are the ones who are in jail and that sort of stuff. That clearly didn't happen in Eric Gardner's case. I knew something was wrong, but I had no clue what to do about it. I realized at that moment just how thick the walls were around me, that I didn't even have a single relationship with a person of color to have a conversation with about this. I guess at that point it's really easy, and you see it a lot. People just go back to the comfort zone that they're in. That's the easy way through, is just to forget about it. But I wasn't okay with that. I started trying to find ways forward. I found a dad who is Black and whose daughter played soccer with my daughter. We had been acquainted for a couple years through different sporting activities, and asked him if he'd be willing to have lunch one day. And we had a great conversation about race and racial tension right where we live. Well, my mind was blown. It's like we were walking down the same street in two different universes. You know, I started having more conversations with students, conversations with coworkers, conversations with other people I knew, and just listening to their stories. This really started to challenge my faith and how I thought about God and Christianity. It's not that it made me change all my doctrinal positions, but it opened me up more to consider areas that were missing. Too much the church has decided to align with power instead of align with valuing people. We get too comfortable with where we are. When I think about Jesus, when I think about following him, you start to look at how he listened to people outside of the seat of power, listened to people in the margins, and you see him pouring himself out for other people to the point that he died on the cross to break the chains of oppression. And that's the image we should reflect as his ambassadors. I am a Be the Bridge educator, and that's where you see some beautiful things happening, where you start seeing people like their eyes open. Be the Bridge gives you that path forward to real transformative change. It gave me the direction I wanted to move in, and then moving through the guide now with others has been just amazing to watch. It has to start right here. It starts in recognizing your own biases. And then as you're doing that work in relationship with other people who aren't thinking the same way as you, then that starts to transform you and you live it out. I'm a bridge builder.